in the avenues and alleyways. With the technical troubles of security hazard, all these little problems, we have all solved them. Now we're live and on the air.
We hope.
What have I got myself into? Oh, no.
I don't know. Oh my goodness! Thank you, everyone who's watching us live, who has been waiting for us to figure out everything. Hopefully, we look and sound okay. If you're watching in the chat, please let us know if we look and sound okay, because we've had to maybe rearrange a few things at the last minute there that may not have worked yet. I don't actually know, so we'll see. But I think for now, thank you, Ben, for that beautiful song. By the way, that was amazing.
Yeah, you didn't know.
Brave, very brave.
I have many talents.
many talents.
Singing isn't one of them, but I do have many talents.
You do. Well, hopefully we'll get to see a few more. Everyone in the chat is saying that we're looking and sounding good, so let's start the show. Welcome, everyone, to the Security Hazard Show. This is the podcast where we like to talk about things from the Gerry Anderson back catalogue, legendary TV shows like Thunderbirds, Stingray, Captain Scarlet, Space 1999. And we're going to cast all of that aside this week. We're going to talk about the Protectors, because we quite like the Protectors as well. Yes, absolutely.
Brilliant. Your host is a man who's been known to travel the avenues and alleyways of London in a Jensen Interceptor. His name is Jack Knoll. Jack Knoll, everybody.
Thank you. I think we disappeared from the screen there very briefly, but I'm figuring out we've had to do a whole new way of doing things. Obviously, I'm driving my Jensen Interceptor at the time, so trying to do a broadcast at the same time as that. Yes, right. Well, what can I... I'm sorry, I'm very frantic today. What can I say about my co-host? Well, some say that he was Tony Anholt's stunt double, but only for the scenes that involved him being fired out of a cannon.
That is true.
Yeah. It's Ben Wolf-Page, everybody. And I don't think you had very much work on the Protectors, to be fair. I don't remember a lot of cannon firing business.
No, it was very minimal cannon firing. In fact, I only really did it once, and it was a bit of a rough landing, so glad that's over with now. And Jack, we're not alone either.
We're not
alone. No. We have a very special guest coming to join us all the way from Japan, a screenwriter, Anderson, a massive Anderson fan, host of the Keep and Destroy podcast. He also curated something called Ander Memes, which was a collection of Gerry Anderson themed memes that went around on social media a couple years back. He's just an all-around great guy. I'm super excited to have him. It's Adam Luff. Hello, Adam.
Hello there. Thank you for having me. And just very perplexed because obviously we've had all these technical issues. Blame the guest who came in and broke the show, for a temporary moment,
Nonsense.
And he was stretching from America to the UK and Japan. Is like the browser is like, can't take it. I can't take it.
Can't cope with it. Can't cope with it, clearly. But, here we are. Our very own little international Protectors organization, and indeed,
World Intelligence Network.
That is exactly what we're talking about today. We're going into the Protectors because every time we have a guest on the show, we let them choose what it is we sit down and watch and talk about. And well, Adam picked the Protectors episode, The First Circle, so I'm sure we're going to hear all about the whys and wherefores behind that. But because we're taking a look at a Gerry Anderson show, that of course leads us into our special assignment segment. So let's take a look at that.
I have received a report from Spectrum Intelligence. It will mean I have a special assignment for you.
Oh, beautiful.
But it's a sewer.
We'll need a team.
I hope you will forgive me.
Yes, we are talking about the Protectors and the First Circle. Adam, why?
Yep. Yes, because I wanted to bring a very depressing episode to the show. No, mainly, I mean, where do I start? It's a long answer, so I'll try and be as brief as I can before I get Commander Shaw going, please, man, please. But I would say it is my favorite episode of The Protectors, even though I actually don't like The Protectors as a show. We'll talk more about that later, but it's still, I'd say it is worthy of talking about because it is my number 3 of all my favorite episodes of every Jerry Anderson show. That comes number 3, even though I like Attack of the Tiger and Emergency Marine more for their entertainment value. The First Circle, I actually think, is the one that's better written and it's well directed, great performances. There's so many different layers to talk about that I'm looking forward to discussing, because when I had it on Keep and Destroy, it was just, I didn't really touch upon it. I only spoke about it very briefly because I was referring to so many other episodes in my review. So I'm taking this opportunity to really dive into all the details. And like I say, there's so much to talk about.
That's what we like. Yes, that's exactly what the Security Hazard show is all about. We really want to get into all those little details. But yeah, we should probably start by sort of addressing the Protectors as a whole. Adam, you said, it's not one of your favorite Anderson shows. Ben, where does it fall for you?
Oh man, I struggle to rank the Anderson shows, but I do have a special place in my heart for the Protectors. Many, many moons ago, I think it was Austin Tate had like a collection of Jerry Anderson links on the web, and it was sort of a list of all the different fan sites. And there were none for the Protectors. So I took it upon myself to rectify that. And I created the world's first, and as far as I know, only Protectors fan site. Wow. When I was 11. So it was one of the shows that I had access to as a kid. I loved the kind of European flavor of it. I loved getting to see kind of a time capsule of the 70s, and I like the cast. I love Robert Vaughn as an actor in other stuff, so it's great to see him in an Anderson show. Even if it doesn't feel like a typical Anderson show, I have a tremendous amount of affection for the Protectors. Yeah, it's just a funky, jazzy, 70s-tastic ITC action drama.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? It's so different from other Jerry Anderson series. I mean, first and foremost, Jerry did not come up with the concept. It was sort of handed to him by Lou Grade and said, right, you make this for me, please. And it was kind of coming at an interesting time in that lineup of ITC action-adventure series. You'd had things before like Danger Man, The Saint, even into weirder territory like The Prisoner and The Champions and that sort of thing. And then you get to the 70s and there's this kind of interesting period going on with ITC where they sort of feel like they found a formula of like put American Star into action adventure series and just sort of let it go.
Hope for the best.
So around about the same time you had things like The Adventurer, which I don't know if either of you have seen The Adventurer. I have a slightly weird fascination with it. It's not very good. And then you have things like The Persuaders, which are very lavish and sort of shot on 35mm film. Has everything that the Protectors kind of has, but on a higher budget, basically. So
I would like to give a little shout out to Randall and Hopkirk Deceased. That was the one I did enjoy.
Yes.
Great shout, yeah.
That's an excellent shout, yeah. So the Protectors kind of falls more into that kind of category where it's an ITC show, maybe, rather than a Jerry Anderson show. But because Jerry Anderson's the producer, there are still lots of tangible connections to other things in the Anderson universe. And I suspect that the First Circle, one of the main reasons as an Anderson fan you might be drawn to that particular episode would be Ed Bishop playing a guest role. Ed Bishop, of course, previously Ed Straker in UFO and Captain Blue and Captain Scarlet. And I will say, for the first circle, he, for me at least, is the main attraction. Would that be fair for you chaps?
Oh. Yes, because weirdly enough, I actually didn't know Ed Bishop was going to be in the episode, if you find that hard to believe, because I'd been dodging the Protectors for so long. It was one of the last Anderson shows I ever watched because as you were just describing, it's so unlike Jerry's work. I just wasn't interested. But when I eventually got around to watching it, I did not any prior research. I didn't look up the episodes or read the synopsis or see who the guest stars were. And I was going through all the episodes on the DVDs, and then I get to the first circle, and I just think, wait, Ed Bishop's in this. Did not expect that. Believe it or not, I did not expect him to be in the episode. So it was a nice highlight, yes. And then by the time you get to the episode, it's like, wow, an unbelievable performance. Like he showed little bits of weakness, obviously, as Ed Straker having breakdowns and whatnot, but never going completely off the rails like he does in this episode. So it was a really good performance.
Yeah, it's a definite highlight for me too. I would agree with Adam. It wasn't like a main draw for me, because I would have seen this probably after I had seen some UFO, but before I had seen any Captain Scarlet. So I didn't quite know then. When I was so young, I wouldn't have known that he was sort of Jerry Anderson's Bobby De Niro, to borrow a cinema term. Martin Scorsese using Bobby De Niro a lot.
Right. His go-to guy. It's like, I need an actor for a serious dramatic role.
Yes.
He's an American, of course, because,
right.
Always chasing the Americans.
So I wouldn't have known necessarily, but it is an absolute highlight of his Anderson oeuvre. It is a great performance, and it's a standout part of the episode for sure.
Yeah. Well, let's get into the episode then. Let's talk a little bit. Let's try and walk our way through the plot, because I'm sure there are probably people listening and watching who might not have come across this episode before.
Yeah.
Spoilers are ahead. Let's just say that
Yeah,
now.
spoiler warning.
It was first
Do we know?
broadcast on March.
I mean, it's a 40-year show. Come on.
It was first broadcast March 2nd, 1973. So if you haven't seen it yet, you've had plenty of time. Sorry, Ben, what you were saying?
Do we know why it's called the First Circle? Does anyone
Yes,
know?
I do.
I
don't know the answer.
I have no
Okay.
idea. Adam,
Well,
what's the answer?
at least there's a theory. We'll
Okay.
explain later. Do you want me to detail it now, or should we talk about it later?
If you think it's going to come up later, then we'll save it for that.
Okay.
But yeah, so this for me, this was actually my first time watching this episode. I've seen plenty of episodes of The Protectors before, but for some reason never quite gotten to this one. It's sort of later on, at least in the broadcast run, it's later on in series 1, and I just hadn't quite gotten to that point yet. So yeah, so this was my first experience watching it, was to talk about it today. And the first thing, as soon as it fades in, the very first thing I thought was, oh boy, this series really needs a good restoration.
Yes.
It would look so lovely on Blu-ray, this episode.
It really
would
would.
really, really enjoy that treatment.
Yeah. But
Fingers
having
crossed.
said that, there is something about the sort of grubby 60mm film with all the dust scratches and just it looking a little bit brown and a little bit grubby that perhaps gives this episode a certain flavor about it. Maybe, like Adam, you were talking about, it's one of the more depressing kind of dark episodes. So I wonder whether maybe that actually does it a favor in a way, gives it that feel. But nevertheless, I would still like to see it cleaned up in high definition, please and thank you. So we start off with this military man. We don't know who he is at that point, and he's driving to the end of the runway, and he's standing there and he's saluting at nothing and no one. This whole airfield seems to be empty and deserted and nothing really going on. And it's all very quiet, very mysterious. And he starts to imagine sounds and people around the place that we, as the audience, do not experience in the same way. And what it ultimately leads to is a police officer arrives on the scene, and this military guy shoots him dead.
Yeah.
And that's that. And what Ed Bishop's character thinks he sees is a Vietnam soldier, and he thinks that's who he shot dead. And he walks off into this deserted airfield hangar, and the constantly repeating phrase is, we're at war here. Remember that.
Remember that. Yeah.
Remember that. Remember that. Remember that. And that's our cold open. Really striking stuff.
Extremely different from a typical episode of The Protectors, where there's usually some sort of, person in jeopardy, probably in a European city, maybe some minor gunplay. This is just a totally different vibe, and there's something haunting about those vacant landscapes, just the huge empty spaces.
And the fact that there's no music as well, because with previous pre-title sequences, you usually have the jazzy music for action scenes, and this is just silence. And the fact is that there is only like one bit of music in like one scene throughout the whole episode, where like the moment he pulls the grenade, and you get that little pinging music moment. So the fact that this opening has no music as well, so it gives that whole emptiness, like you were saying.
Yeah,
that's true.
I wonder if the no music thing was a choice, whether they were like, we want to create this kind of spooky, silent atmosphere, or whether it was literally a case of looking at John Cameron's music library for the series and going, we don't have anything appropriate in here that would fit for any of this. So it was probably a little bit of both, probably.
I'm going to assume that it was a choice, because I'll mention what the title could be referring to, and I think this is why. It's because I went on the IMDb page, and someone had put on the trivia page that the first circle is referring to Dante's Inferno, and I never thought about that at the time. But because I'm not an expert on Dante's Inferno, but when I looked it up and I saw all the different layers of hell, I think that person who put the trivia up was onto something, because I then started seeing other references to the layers. Like the first circle basically in Dante's Inferno is limbo, and this episode does have a purgatory vibe to it, with the lack of music and the emptiness and the enclosed space as well. But the fact that there's not that many characters, and you've got Hunter who's basically just running around with like a man without a purpose, or a man without a country. So so I think that's one of them. And also many other layers of hell as well is referenced in certain parts, which we'll get to later on with certain characters, which I'll bring them up later on. But the first circle, meaning limbo, I think Tony Barwick was trying to add maybe some kind of Dante's Inferno reference to it. So whoever put that trivia up, good on you, because I think that person was onto something.
Interesting.
That is some seriously well observed stuff. Definitely not where I would have gone with it, but as you explain it, that makes a lot of sense. Not the sort of thing you would expect from an episode of The Protectors.
Or any Anderson show, I think.
Or indeed any Anderson show. Yes, they don't tend to go in for their literary references very much. But that's for sure. Well, that's a very, very good observation.
Blame it's the other person who put it up. It just inspired me to look further into it.
Credit to IMDb for that then. So the location for this whole episode, we should say, I did a little bit of research looking in my Jerry Anderson episode guide. So it's the disused Radler Aerodrome near Park Street Village in St Albans. And does anybody know where it was a location in a previous Jerry Anderson series?
No idea. Let me guess.
Trying to think of disused airfield scenes.
Well, this is it. It wasn't disused. at the time. It had only, when it came to the Protectors, it had only recently become disused. In the UFO episode Identified, when the plane comes into land, it's the same airfield, but it hadn't been decommissioned yet.
I had no idea.
All right.
So there you go. I know
That
nothing else about this episode, but I do have that little bit of trivia for you.
Well, we've already learned. I've already learned 2 things, and the episode's only been going for like 20 minutes.
Amazing.
So what can you tell us? So me and Jack have now given you something new. What can you give us now that's new?
So
Pressure.
this will come up later, I'm sure. We talked a little bit before the show about the kind of like Vietnam era and the fact that like the Vietnam War was going on while they were filming this.
Yeah.
Most of the like Vietnam newsreel footage would have been shot on 16 millimeter. So it makes perfect sense to shoot this episode on 16 millimeter in terms of like, it would have been shot on some of the same cameras even that they would use in Vietnam. So that's something. Yeah, there's a few other things that I'd like to bring up later on along that same theme.
Actually, on that topic, I do have one more piece of trivia for you.
Okay.
Which is that in Tony Barwick's original script, it wasn't going to be at the Vietnam War at all. It was going to be the Korean War.
Didn't know that. Yes.
Yeah.
No, I didn't either.
So it's interesting then that the decision was taken to make it more present, and more immediate. Any speculation as to why that might have been?
I have a theory. Do you have something to say on that, Adam?
No. I welcome your theory, Ben.
So Robert Vaughn was a Vietnam War, one of the first celebrities to speak out against the Vietnam War.
Yeah.
He did an interview in, I think, 1966. So the war, I think the first American involvement in the Vietnam War would have been in 63 or 64. So he was one of the first to come out and publicly say we shouldn't be involved in this war. And I imagine his influence kind of guided that in that direction.
Okay.
And something that he wanted was to have a little bit more script influence and to do scripts that were a bit more, less action adventure and a little bit more meaty. And he certainly got that with this.
Yeah. I get
That's a good point. Yeah.
I get the feeling with this episode and maybe a few other Protectors episodes where even though it says, screenplay by Tony Barwick, I think that was him probably acting more in his role as sort of script editor, sort of putting the thing together, but the story may not have been his, or it might have been a collaboration with lots of other people. And yeah, I would seeing as this is kind of a essentially like a 2-man play, basically, where Robert Vaughn is very definitely the star of the show, I would hazard a guess that Robert Vaughn had some involvement in coming up with the idea. So, yeah, that makes a lot of sense that would all go together.
I need to double check where in production order it could be practically anyone on the island comes, because obviously Tony Barwick wrote that script and Robert Vaughn directed that very, very bad episode. But because I know in the transmission order, they're right next to each other.
Right.
So it's amazing that you go from the worst episode to the very best episode. But I do wonder.
I think
I don't know if
order they're quite separate.
Yeah, but I don't know in the production order.
Island was shot in Malta, so
yeah, but I don't know in the production order whether it was made before the first circle, because maybe then I don't know if Robert Vaughn might have spoken to Tony Barwick after or during the production of that episode, and then maybe they collaborated on this one.
I don't know for sure. I don't know. For sure. Yeah.
Something Adam pointed out to me before the show started was what a great drama writer Tony Barwick is as well. We think about him as a comic writer because of some of the funny stuff that he's written, like some of the later episodes of Terrorhawks, for example, or like some of his funnier stuff in Captain Scarlet. But he also was really great at writing drama, and I think he got to flex his muscles with a little bit of real world drama in this episode.
Definitely.
Totally agree with that. Yes, because I've always preferred his serious writing, to be honest. I mean, I'm probably one of the very few people that actually likes the serious early Terrorhawks rather than the comedy stuff. So the fact that, I've always felt that Tony Barwick is usually seen as the funny writer, which I think No, I think you need to look at some of his serious stuff because whether it's the early Terrorhawks like Close Call, Thunder Roll, or even later ones like First Strike, and then of course a story about terrorism like Attack of the Tiger, and so I think Tony Bark. It's a shame that he never got to move beyond Anderson because you look at his IMDb, it's mostly Jerry Anderson shows, and it's a shame he never got to move on to other shows, whether it was the Avengers or classic Doctor Who or actually just writing movies. I think as a drama writer, I think he deserved a much better career. He's good as a Anderson writer. He's very famous, but I think he deserved to go to the next level and actually be a bigger writer elsewhere.
Definitely. Yeah, totally agree with that. Well, one of the next kind of development in the episode is we get introduced to a police inspector. I'm not actually sure of his rank or anything, but Slade is a guest character who is brought into the episode, and it's initially his job to come to the airfield and figure out what are we going to do about this Colonel Hunter guy who's running around shooting people. We've got to do something about this. How do we feel about him? Because I've got to be honest, I knew immediately that he was going to annoy me. That was just very much the tone I got from him, and obviously Harry Rule's reaction to him as well is very much like that. But any redeeming qualities there that you guys can see?
Well, I don't know about redeeming. I mean, I like the character. I mean, yes, he is the comic relief, constantly obsessing over food and whatnot, which leads me to another Dante's Inferno reference. When I read the IMDb and mentioned about Limbo, I looked up all the other layers of hell. Gluttony was another layer. And I realized that he's constantly eating all the time and obsessing over food. Someone get some sandwiches, please, and all that. And I think, so that's possibly another reference to Dante's Inferno, that he and the police are always obsessed over eating and drinking. And kind of what I've been doing. I've been drinking a lot on the show, so maybe I'm the gluttony in the layer of this episode.
But that's really interesting, though, because, I was watching this whole thing like, this is going somewhere, right? All this business about the food and the drink and, don't make sure you don't leave the tea there and all this.
Yeah.
I assumed that was going somewhere. I assumed like, they're leaving behind clues or something. No, it is completely not relevant at all. So the fact that you have found something there, some sort of a link, makes me feel a lot better about it. So thank you for that.
It feels to me like a bit of a cliche from like American TV about what British people are like, where they're always drinking tea and they're worried about their sandwiches and they wear Macintosh coats and it's always raining, and it just feels a little bit like it feels a bit Americanized in a way, the depiction of the British police, rather than a more tough, realistic depiction of the British police. So it kind of works for me. I like what the actor does with it. I like that he stands up to Robert Vaughn. I wish that they had written and done a little bit more of that. I think he could have gone toe to toe with him a little bit more. But yeah, I don't dislike the character for sure.
Even though he never got, I wouldn't say it was a story arc or a character arc completely. No, it is a character arc. You know how he's obsessed over food and whatnot, and he asks Robert Vaughn for some cigars, and then Robert Vaughn gives him the cigars. And obviously, I think that's Harry Rule feeding into his gluttony. But then by the end of the episode, he gives him back the cigars. I think, I don't know if Tony Bart was trying this, or maybe I'm just looking into this too much, but I think he's a changed man by the end of the episode by giving him back the cigars and just not keeping them all for himself. So after the events of everything, there are opposites at the beginning, but they decide to try each other's methods. And the fact that both their methods don't work with Hunter, and that Hunter is a completely lost cause, they pretty much come, to an equal level. They accept each other, Slade and Harry. So I think, again, there's a bit of a character change in him with giving back the cigars.
Yeah.
That's how I see that, as like an act of acceptance of giving him back the cigars. It's like, we're sort of on the same page now.
Fair enough. That makes a lot of Wow, you guys are finding stuff. In the end, I completely didn't even. I don't think I even noticed that change happening. To be honest, no. But but you're absolutely right. I think it is definitely there. So yeah. So at first, Slade basically wants to let Hunter run around and tire himself out. Really, Slade doesn't feel like doing very much work at all, whereas Harry's sort of feeling like, let's be a bit more proactive about this, shall we? And there's that great moment where Harry goes and sits in his car for a while, and nothing seems to happen for a little bit. And then Harry comes back out, and suddenly Slade has changed his tune because he's had a phone call from someone higher up.
Yeah, he was called the writer. He was having a phone call with Tony Barracks. Like, just get on with the plot.
Exactly, because we're all there as an audience, sort of thinking, well, no, something needs to happen here. You've got Harry Rule there, like he's clearly here to do some protecting, so let's let him go. Now, and again, this might come from the fact I've only watched it once. Why exactly does Harry turn up in the first place? Who calls him in?
In the episode guide, they say that it's Hunter's wife who hires him, which sort of makes sense with later. But when she does turn up, Hunter's wife later in this episode, she sort of gives him the rundown as if she's giving it to him for the first time, which is sort of necessary to compact the story into 20 minutes. That's sort of what has to happen. But it doesn't quite make sense to me if she's the one who hired him. But there's also a line at the end where Harry says that he knew him, Hunter.
Yeah. And
so I like to speculate that maybe they served together in the war and crossed paths somewhere in service. But that how that fits in the timeline of Harry's detective work and his age at the time of the Vietnam War, not quite clear.
Right.
Mm.
Yeah,
good point.
Yeah. Well, so Harry gets to kind of make his first attempt at, tracking down Hunter and going to find him and make peace kind of straight away. And it doesn't go very well, does it? I think that's fair to say.
No, not at all. Getting shot at, yeah, certainly.
Yeah. So Hunter just starts shooting at Harry, and they're in this sort of is it like a control tower or something?
Something like that.
Yeah. It's some sort of control tower. Again, a lovely abandoned airfield. You've got all these sort of weird and wonderful structures that the film crew was probably just like, yeah, we'll just kind of do it over there, probably. We'll just do that scene over there, and that will work, and that will look good. So, yeah, so that's what they do. And, poor Harry gets shot at, definitely not prepared for the situation whatsoever. But it gets us our kind of first kind of big piece of action for the episode.
Yes. Our first instance of something that's central to this episode, which is stunt driving.
Oh,
there's a lot of stunt driving in this episode and cool, handbrake turns and all kinds of high angle shots on these cars moving around. It's really a great episode if you're into that sort of cinematography and style.
Yeah.
Gives you a little taste of what happens in the final act. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. But it's Slade who's driving Harry's car.
It is, and on the DVD, very clearly, a stunt driver who has a different hairline to Slade. They don't look quite the same, but we allow it. We allow it.
Yeah, but a bit cheeky to get into someone else's car, and probably looked at the police cars and was like, yeah.
I mean, you do sort of wonder because the fact that the other two regulars aren't even in the episode as well. So, but I can't imagine having Tony do the driving and nothing else in the episode. So the fact that they're not in the episode doesn't really bother me though. So I can accept Slade driving the car.
Yeah, we haven't even touched upon that fact that this is a Protectors episode with only one Protector in it.
One of the only ones that's just Harry. The other episode being Shadbolt, I think.
And it could be practically any. I hate that title; it's so long. It could be practically anyone on the island as well.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I can't imagine them really. I suppose Tony, Paul Boucher, we should say, not Tony Anholt playing Paul Boucher. Paul maybe could have provided some driving backup or something like that in there. I don't really know what the Contessa would have been getting up to during the events of this episode.
Consoling the wife, I suspect.
Probably.
Is what
Yeah.
they would have assigned her to do. Wouldn't have been a good use of the character.
Yeah.
I do love after
go
this there's a really small moment that's really nice where Harry's just checking his car to make sure that the paint work isn't scratched too badly. He's like checking for bullet marks.
Yeah.
Which is very nice. Those small touches that you're like, oh yeah, this is his personal car.
Yeah. What is the car? Isn't it? Didn't you say it was someone on the production's car?
Yeah, it belonged to Reg Hill.
Ah.
This Jensen Interceptor was Reg Hill's personal car. And of course, Jerry was driving a Rolls Royce around this time, which turns up in a few episodes as well, notably in the Big Con, I think it's called.
Oh, King Kong.
King Con, thank you.
Yeah. That's but yeah, you could, even if Robert Vaughn wasn't going to check the paintwork, then Reg Hill definitely would have come on.
Yeah.
But that must have been kind of, I get the feeling that Reg Hill probably would have been quite satisfied to see, like, oh yeah, can I have a go at driving it down the runway really, really fast, please? But there would have been a little bit of that going on at the same time. Yeah, so all good fun. But yeah, so as you mentioned, you know, Harry goes and has a chat with Colonel Hunter's wife, and I don't necessarily know what's gained from that scene other than a little bit of, hey, could you please help my husband?
Yeah, makes him a little bit more sympathetic, I think, to see that, oh, well, he's actually a good man, she tells us, you know, and he's not just a crazy person. He has another side to him that's more.
I think it also adds to the weight of the drama as well. The fact that he does, you know, he promises her that he'll do his best to save Hunter, and yet he fails at the end of the episode. So I think it just adds more to how downbeat the ending is. The fact that he made a promise and couldn't keep it. Yeah. So I think it's still important to have that moment. But yeah, it's a very, very brief character moment. You know, she's not in it. She doesn't come back at the end, and I don't think it would have worked just having her turn up at the end just to cry or whatever.
Yeah. No, I think that does matter. So Slade has come up with a new plan, which is, you know, instead of doing nothing, he's just going to shoot the guy.
Yeah.
That's the plan, basically. Which, when I think about it, it's like, okay, you can't talk to him, you can't reason with him, so maybe just getting him in the leg or something, maybe, might have been the kindest thing to do. Save him from blowing himself up or hurting anyone else, maybe.
It's not a completely ridiculous suggestion given the circumstances.
Yeah. Exactly. And they've even got a helicopter.
Yes, another
like,
key.
Wow. The Protector's budget has stretched to a helicopter this week.
Yes, and I think they definitely used it for the helicopter shots as well. Yeah. You can tell that it's the same helicopter. They rented it for a day or two, and that's the helicopter for the whole show.
Yeah,
which is great. I love it. It's really nice added bit of production value and a great example of what you can do if you're clever with your resources. You know, instead of doing like a big nightclub scene, you know, with a ton of extras that would have cost a lot of money, they do an episode that has like no background at all, no set decoration except for like a tea kettle. Yeah. And then they bring in, you know, a helicopter and a bunch of cars and a bunch of actors and stuntmen to drive them, and that's it. And it's a really innovative approach to like telling a story on television, as opposed to what they typically would have been doing for an ITC drama like this one.
Yeah.
That's true.
It does. Yeah, there is an extent of like And that's what makes it kind of fun to watch. Is yes, you have the drama and, as you say, the sort of darker topics that you're dealing with here, but as a piece of entertainment and as a Protectors episode in particular, it's kind of like, yeah, you just kind of need to have some vehicles driving around and some helicopters flying around and causing trouble in that regard. So yeah, I think it works very well. A perfect excuse to roll out all of those toys, basically. I think is what it comes down to. Yeah. But the reason why Slade's plan of shooting the guy isn't going to work is Harry points out that he's holding grenades, and Harry makes a good point of going, look, 1, 2, 3, 4, and he jabs Slade in the stomach, which I guess maybe that was again another gluttony reference there, maybe giving a poke in the tummy.
That's true, yeah.
Perhaps. Which a couple of things about that. First of all, you'd have to have really good aim, I suppose, but there's no reason why you couldn't have still maybe tried shooting him in the leg or something just to slow him down. But also, Hunter has way more than 4 grenades
Yes.
on him.
Yes, which begs the question, how did, of course we don't have time because it's a half-hour show, but I want to know, how did he get these weapons? How did he come to be in this disused airfield with all of his fatigues and his gun and a box of hand grenades and a Jeep?
And the
It's
Jeep.
just
I want to know where he got the Jeep from. 'Cause...
it's like he was in an army hospital and then just went AWOL and snuck into a storage facility and scooped up all this stuff and just
yeah, that's a good theory.
ran out somewhere. It's not explained. It's just we just sort of have to deal with the hypothetical scenario.
Sure. There's definitely an extent to which you just have to go along with that, because you're never going to set all of that up. I certainly can't imagine that he was just at home in bed one day and decided, I fancy getting in the Jeep again. Why not? Although, obviously, PTSD functions in lots of weird and wonderful ways, so I suppose it's possible
That's
that
true.
could have happened. But I actually buy your idea of he was in an army hospital and just had ways of getting to these resources, and that's what ended up happening. Although I
agree with that too, because even though I've been saying things like limbo, purgatory, etc., I'm not going to come up with some kind of explanation how this is all set in a fantasy world of the fact that this is literally in limbo, and I'm not going to come up with any theory like that. So I'm going with Ben's theory.
Yeah, it does make me wonder why he was even in England, because the episode is set in England, right? I'm not imagining that. So okay, it's set in England, and you've got this American soldier. So I guess recuperating it, something like that. Who knows? But
my theory with that is, my theory about why there's Americans in England is possibly, she took him to England to go on holiday to try to recover, to try and get his mind off things, and then he just disappeared one morning or something. But
right,
the whole where did he get the Jeep and everything? I can't think of anything for that.
Does she do a bit of an American accent?
Yes, she does.
Yeah.
Yes.
So to me, it would have been more interesting if she had been English. If they were, that would have explained more of why they were there, and it just would have been. It would have added an extra layer of dimension to it, I think.
Yes. So to kind of keep moving the episode along, as you sort of mentioned earlier, Harry buys Slade some cigars in order to get to have his way, which is a interesting way of moving the episode along. You would have thought that maybe Slade would have been a bit more professional than that, but as you say, in the context of the glutton and things like that, maybe that's exactly what was needed. But so Harry essentially tries the same technique again of just going up to Hunter and saying hello, but this time he's dressed up in uniform, and he kind of he immerses himself in the role with Hunter as one of his army subordinates, I suppose.
Yeah.
And essentially tries to befriend him that way by kind of getting into the role. Which is, I suppose we all knew that that's probably where the episode was going to end up in order to kind of get us to that point. I don't know. Thoughts? How do we think that change kind of manifests, and how well does it come off?
I mean, I'm okay with it because obviously when he first goes, he's in regular clothes, just wanted to talk normally as just a regular person. And then he realizes he's not going to get through to him. So I assume basically getting the army uniform is a way of humoring Hunter to try to get him off his guard, if you pardon the pun. And then just again, play this scenario in order to hopefully get close enough to Hunter, as he does when he's in the control tower, try to get access to the rifle. So I think it's a way of just getting closer to him by, playing along with the story.
Yeah.
It's a great trope to take your lead character and kind of put them in a funny costume to kind of it's a way of engaging the audience. I think you tune into the episode and you're like, oh yeah, Harry's dressed up as a soldier. Oh yeah. And it's sort of, it just sort of subverts expectations a little bit and makes it interesting and gives your actor something to do that's a little bit different, because actors love costumes and props, and it's a great way to get in character and do something different.
Well, I'm not sure Robert Vaughn was maybe as keen on dressing up as a soldier given the circumstances, but
possibly.
But no, I'm sure to get his point across, he probably did feel like that was a good idea.
Yeah.
So, yeah, fair enough. And we have that just wonderful scene where it's just the two of them talking. And Ed Bishop acting his heart out. You can really tell he is somewhere else,
Yeah.
I think that's the best way I could describe it anyway. He is somewhere else. And it's in his eyes, really.
Yeah.
In his shiny blue eyes.
And the fact that he's just about to crack as well, and then just pulls himself back to his... I think, again, it's the fact that he's unstable and he's now in a place that he's, not happy with. He's a weak man. And then he's, tearing up and everything. And then he just reverts back to his old persona, where he felt, like a man, where he felt strong and everything. So just pulling back into, basically going back into the past in order to at least keep himself stable.
Yeah, that fantasy was sort of a crutch that he was sort of leaning on to avoid facing that really uncomfortable reality.
Yes.
Yeah. And the script isn't afraid to really try and immerse us in the Vietnam War, and Hunter says some not particularly favorable things about the Vietnamese soldiers that he was fighting. So I again, for an episode of The Protectors, very blunt and very honest about it, which I think, as much as it's not pleasant to hear those things, it puts you right in that place. It makes the character that much more believable that these are the types of things he would say and talk about, and the opinions that he would hold. So I think
harsh but very important, though, for the character, without a doubt.
Because it's kind of I guess what they're sort of trying to say is that in a way he's, and it's the way that PTSD often works is like you almost feel more at home, you're more familiar by being in that more unpleasant situation. So because that's the version of events that he's able to accept. So the fact that they go ahead and paint it as quite this ugly scenario, but yet that's still where this character chooses to be. Really just indicative of just not being in a good place at that point.
In such desperate need that trauma has become normal. That's like when your normal becomes trauma, when you're so used to trauma that it's become normal. He's going back to that normal of like being in that place of trauma, and it's a scary place to be. And I love also that they don't have to tell us that his characterization of the Vietnamese is wrong and a broad overgeneralization and racist. Like they don't have to. Nobody has to pop up on the screen and explain that to us. We kind of intuit it. We see it from what's happening.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
So it's.
Yeah.
I think it's.
Oh yeah. There's certainly nothing here that suggests celebrating that stereotype or anything like that by any means. Yeah. Which it's a TV show from the 70s, so you might expect that to be the case. But no, the context is very, very clear that this man is not in his right mind, and therefore, and that he's troubled and that sort of thing. So yeah. All this, we're talking about an episode of The Protectors, everyone. Just to let you know, that show, which, this is the thing, though. The Protectors is famously kind of considered to be quite shallow and quite sort of, it's all about the cars and the crazy 70s costumes and the, isn't it fun to go dawdling around the Riviera or something like that. This episode's quite a stark contrast to all of that. Amazing that it that it was daring enough to go to that sort of a place. And I'm trying to think if there are other Jerry Anderson episodes that explore anything similar. The one that actually comes to mind thinking about it, and it's handled in a different way, but the Terrorhawks episode First Strike,
yes,
General Ripcord, where he also kind of has his moment of trauma and sort of loses himself a little bit towards the end of the episode. That's not a parallel I'd thought about. Literally came off the top of my head. I don't know if there are any others that you could think of like that.
No, I think you picked the best one, really. First Strike is a good choice and one of my favorite episodes. So. But, oh God, any other shows? Because I honestly don't think the First Circle would honestly fit in any other show. I mean, you take it and you put it. If you took it and maybe put it in Space Precinct, I don't think I could take it seriously. Just the fact that we are in this science fiction fantastical world with aliens in police costumes, I wouldn't be able to take it as seriously. It has to be in something that is the most grounded, and really. The Protectors is probably the only one that could fit, but I honestly I cannot think of any other episode to compare it to.
No,
the series that's crying out for a PTSD episode is Joe 90 because of its weird concept of brain waves and all sorts of implications. I guess Captain Scarlet too has some of that.
Yeah, not necessarily kind of explored in the same way, but the Joe 90 episode Talk Down. Where you have
of course.
The pilot who can't land the plane because he's had trauma from didn't he have a plane accident in the past or something? Anyway,
that's true.
Blanks on the idea of the plane, and that brain pattern gets transferred into Joe, and Joe can't land the plane either. I guess that's an interesting exploration, and again, another Tony Barwick script.
Interesting
that all three of those examples are Tony Barwick. So maybe
a theme that meant something to him for sure.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
The interesting thing about the comparison to First Strike, before we move on from that, is that's in that episode. It's sort of presented as like a moral failing, where he's in the wrong and Tiger's in the right, and they have two different approaches, and one is wrong and one is right, and he sort of like collapses because he's not up to the challenge. He's his brokenness is what creates that sort of like wrong-headed approach, whereas here we're told that Ed Bishop's character Hunter is a good guy, that he's a good man with a whole nother side to him, even though we see him killing people in cold blood, because he's in the throes of this illness basically. So it's interesting to compare those two.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because that's the whole, I suppose, that certainly would have been Robert Vaughn's point, is that you're taking good people, sending them to war, and making them do bad things. So, that probably was the whole kind of line there. Anyway, we should keep moving along. There's just that the way that conversation ends is with Harry tries to take away Hunter's gun, and Hunter's response is to pull a grenade.
Yeah.
And you get that sort of standoff going on. So you just go, Harry needs to... The lesson learned from that scene is that Harry needs to get himself a little bit more immersed in it. He can't quite trick him that easily, which is kind of... ramps up the drama, ramps up the tension and all of that, for sure. But anyway, they sort of... That attempt kind of has all gone wrong and falls apart, and so Harry goes back to Slade, and Harry gives the order for Slade and all of the other police officers to pull out, so that they can kind of completely immerse in the situation. And Harry's kind of very much aware of just how dangerous Hunter is at this point. So Slade goes along with it and says, "Don't forget the kettle, Sergeant." Continuing to try and
very important.
Those touches of humor in there as well, which just really captures you off guard. And as I say, I really thought, particularly with the kettle thing, because it lingers on screen for ages, where he goes through the process of like picking everything up and taking it out. Like, it really hangs around. I really thought, maybe that's going to be a setup for later where, I don't know, this is me imagining it, but I thought, maybe Hunter will see the kettle and that will somehow break the illusion and make him start to see things differently, or it might be an item that confuses him, or maybe he might see it as a weapon and, I don't know, start to attack Harry Rule with a kettle, which would be an interesting piece of drama. But the point is, they just sort of go on and on and on about this kettle and all the food and all the tea and all of this stuff, and you think, this is adding up to something, right? Nope. It is all there purely for the humor and purely, as you say, for that, for those circles of hell type, analogy. So that's all kind of a bit strange. I don't know if you guys had anything to add to that, but
maybe just going back to when we were talking about Tony Bauer as a comedy writer, I can just assume that other than possibly being a Dante's Inferno reference, it is probably just there for humor. So that's the best I can think of.
I think it's probably there as kind of an underlining of their inability to deal with the task that they're faced with. They're not a specialized group of, they're not a SWAT team coming in here to deal with an armed suspect. They're sort of just ordinary cops who are just like, more concerned about where their tea and sandwiches are coming from. They're not used to dealing with this kind of a situation. So I think it sort of underlines their incompetence.
Yeah.
Which is really weird. Why didn't they bring in a SWAT team or something?
I don't know, because
they're there for a while. Like, they're hanging out for a while. Like, they could have brought other people in. It's not like, this is a really urgent thing we need to take care of straight away. Slade is quite happy to take his time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it might have worked out too if he had just waited for him to get hungry or pass out. If he didn't go on the aggressive.
Yeah.
If it had worked out that way, it could have easily turned.
I mean, I suppose Harry's argument was that Hunter was a danger to himself and therefore had to be helped out.
There is that.
But they couldn't just leave him to his own devices. But otherwise, I agree, that probably would have been the best thing to do, but that was Harry's concern. So Harry and Hunter sort of go for a nice drive around the airfield while this military music plays. And again, you're seeing Harry kind of trying to immerse himself more into Hunter's world as they're doing that. And Harry and Hunter go around inspecting the airfield and checking it all out, and of course Harry's having to go along with it even though there's nothing there. And for the first time we get moments of, well, no, I suppose not for the first time, but even more so, we start to see more of what Hunter is seeing. You get the soldiers in the sort of bathroom area and things like that. So you start to get little tastes of it, and I think they could have done a bit more with that, but I also kind of like that they only give us quick little snapshots of it, because it, you know, we don't want to necessarily take Hunter's illusions too seriously. We want to kind of make sure they are cemented as illusions. And also probably help the budget out a little bit to only have one or two extras kind of going around in that scene, and otherwise nothing else.
It's a lovely piece for Ed Bishop, because he can play. He basically creates a whole imaginary world for us just with his performance.
Yeah,
I agree.
He's saluting to all these people as if they're there, and it's you buy that this guy believes that they're there.
Yeah, especially when he's barking orders earlier in the episode, and I always love that moment where he just looks directly into camera. Just it's like you yourself is one of those soldiers. It's very unnerving how he's just staring right at you. Let's shoot first and ask questions later, that kind of thing.
Yeah. But I like during that scene of the inspection, Hunter has moments where he's quite relaxed, kind of calm, which Ed Bishop, of course, is great at playing that. What's nice about Ed Bishop as an actor is he can play the serious, dramatic stuff where he holds your gaze and things like that. But he's also comes across as quite a nice guy. And yeah, there are those moments where he's kind of like, those silly young soldiers just having fun there. And there's a sense of him feeling relaxed and kind of comfortable in that scenario, which of course Harry tries to use to his advantage as a moment where Hunter's let his guard down. So Harry tries at this point to break the illusion, tries to tell Hunter what's really going on, and that he's, imagining all of this. And, well, it doesn't go down well. They start fighting. I'm going to assume that there's stunt doubles being used for the sort of hand-to-hand fighting and stuff like that, but I can't say I particularly noticed. Normally when I'm watching The Protectors, I'm looking out for the not-so-convincing stunt doubles, but I didn't particularly notice any here.
No, they definitely do some of their own stunts here.
Yeah.
Because you can clearly see them in some of the falling and tumbling.
Yeah. But at this point, basically, I don't think there are any other points in the episode where Hunter sort of becomes lucid again. It's kind of, that is the moment that breaks him completely. That's kind of where he becomes a lost cause, really. Which is, very, very sad. And, interesting that it all adds up to an episode where the heroes do not win, basically. Kind of continuing on our theme from last week, Ben, about Winged Assassin, where it's kind of interesting to have episodes that end on a downbeat note. But yeah, before we get to that, we kind of get to the really big action sequence that we've kind of been working towards throughout the whole episode. We've had little smidgens of it here and there, but this is where it really starts to ramp up. Where the police start to give chase, because Hunter basically escapes in his Jeep, and the police start to give chase, and another police officer gets run over. So it's like, okay, we're back in kind of a deadly situation at this point. And the rain. Oh, the rain. The rain.
Another possible Dante's Inferno reference.
Oh, go on then.
Oh. Now, I just need to check my list because I can't remember them all. So just give me one moment.
Oh, you don't have the 7 circles of hell just memorized off the top of your head. Oh, what a shame.
Oh, God, no, definitely not. Especially because not all of them are referenced in the episode, possibly because it's maybe half an hour. Whether Tony Barrett could have got all of them in an hour, I don't know. But but really, the 2 I've mentioned so far. So Limbo is definitely the whole episode. Gluttony is with Slade. Now, this one, Lust. Now, there is no lust in the episode, but in Dante's Inferno, it says here that sinners that give into lust are blown away in a violent storm. Now, I think maybe they were using the rain and thunder. Possibly that's a reference to lust, not directly a reference, but a secondary reference.
Wow. That's...
I love this.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, I think good thing that they probably didn't try and have a direct reference to lust in there. That would have been, I don't know how they would have worked that in at all, but
No.
yeah, but that's I mean, okay, yeah, this gets me thinking all sorts of things, because I assume that the rain is real rain because they're filming in England,
Right.
so of
Yeah.
course it's real rain.
I think
but
the only
coincidence is so necessary. It's such an important part of it. That
I mean, thank God they had a rainy day to film in, because there is that one shot when Slade is asking for sandwiches. It's like broad sunlight and everything, but then you get what looks like just a hose pipe being sprayed on them.
Yeah.
To be honest, that's kind of an unnecessary moment. As much as I love this episode, it's not perfect, but I don't think that rain effect was necessary. You could have just, while it was the interior scene with Harry and Hunter, you could have just had some thunderstorm sound effects to get the message across. But nevertheless, that thunderstorm at the end is a great, it's not a thunderstorm, but a storm nonetheless.
Yeah.
So it's a great visual all the same.
I think that earlier rain is added to try and establish that it's raining off and on all day.
Yeah.
So they're trying to convey that
enough,
information. And there is some nice like rain on the tin roof sound if you listen carefully in the dialogue scene.
Yes.
So that stuff is very nice. I'm really glad the atmosphere of this episode is just fantastic. I'm really glad they had a day when it was nice and rainy for them to shoot all of this business, because it looks amazing.
It looks amazing, but also terrible. That's what's kind of good about it, because I talked already about how the film quality does not look great either. So adding rain to it, like, it's just a mess in terms of like the whole thing. I mean, it's not pretty to look at, which is the whole point.
Yeah.
Which I just it kind of adds to that sort of feeling of like, gosh, wasn't it all lucky that all these elements came together all at the same time while they were making this episode? But yeah, no, the rain is really, really integral to the whole thing about adding that atmosphere. And I suppose, is it supposed to be reminiscent of a more tropical storm that you would get in Vietnam? Probably. I feel like a lot of those old newsreels are kind of trying to give that sort of atmosphere as well, where it's just really unpleasant conditions to kind of work in, so it kind of adds to that whole atmosphere as well.
Really gritty.
Yeah. So I mean, the whole action sequence is just helicopters flying overhead and cars chasing down this runway and going all over the place and sliding about, handbrake turns on the wet runway and all of this stuff. It looks really great. And you've got Hunter chucking grenades. As I say, he's definitely got more than 4 grenades. He's got a whole trunk full of them. He just keeps on chucking them, trying to like get all of his enemies out of the way. And he kind of works himself into this illusion where he suddenly thinks he's in a plane and he's gonna take himself down the runway and fly off and escape. And do we think that maybe there's a parallel there of him sort of trying to escape his demons, but also trying to escape attack and all this stuff? It's really clever. It's really, really clever.
Accepting his fate, moving off to the afterlife. Yeah, could well be.
Could well be. All the way that is all shot and edited, you sort of really start to see where Hunter's making these connections. Like, at first I was like, well, obviously a Jeep is not a plane. How could he make that link? But with the right sound effects and the right shots and everything, you can see it as an audience. You start to buy into all of this stuff.
Yeah.
Before I spoil the ending of the episode, is there anything you want to add?
Oh man, yeah, it's just so it's so rich in terms of visual stuff going on. And Ed Bishop's performance, believing that it's an airplane, we believe that because he believes that. He sells it with all the like Commander Straker's authority to be like, I'm taking off. He's there and he's present, and you believe that he thinks it's an airplane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also Robert Vaughn as well, just the fact that he's been trying to get through to him the whole time, and then he confronts him in the hangar, just basically just go for it, just try to stop him through physical force. And then the moment he takes off, runs back to Slade, just desperation in his voice, like, got to stop him, he's going to kill himself. There's pretty much nothing else he can do now other than just chase after him and just do whatever it takes to stop him. But I mean, that was a good performance on Robert Vaughn's part.
It is. And I think it's indicative too that Robert Vaughn's, or Harry Rule, kind of fails a little bit, where he makes the decision, now's the time to like push and try to convince him that he's in England and today's today. And that completely backfires. It doesn't work at all. And so he's sort of like forced to come face to face with failing, which doesn't happen a lot in the Protectors.
No.
They normally come out on top, or on top with some sort of like sad caveat. But this is like a complete failure.
Yep.
And Harry doesn't even have like the consolation of having the Contessa to kind of lean on. He's all by himself.
Yeah.
To deal with this massive loss.
Yeah. Well, so we're getting ahead of ourselves a little bit. So Hunter, needless to say, his Jeep does not turn into a plane. He doesn't take off. He crashes.
This is not the Secret Service.
This is not the Secret Service. No. He crashes into a tower at the end of the runway, and of course, all of his grenades go up all at once, and he is dead, very definitely dead. Goes up in a ball of fire, and that's it.
Another Dante's Inferno reference coming up. Let me just find it.
Well, I'm gonna guess the Inferno part might be a bit of a giveaway, but yeah.
Where is it? It's just trying to. I just find it. So again, it's not really used in the episode, but heresy was another layer of hell, and it says here in Dante's Inferno that heretics are trapped in a fiery tomb. So I think, even though there's no actual heresy, the fact that his Jeep explodes and it's just this big ball of flame, and the fact that it's his death site as well. So yeah, I think the Jeep is basically the fiery tomb.
Amazing. Yep. No, I don't doubt that. All those connections make a lot of sense. Yeah.
So we've got 4 Dante's Inferno references out of, how many is it again? 9. So, and that is it. I can't find any other layers in any references. So that's why I think
maybe if somehow the episode had been able to keep going, maybe they would have got them all in. But I
exactly,
think 4 in a 20 minute episode is not bad.
Yeah, because the other ones are greed, and well, I mean, gluttony and greed are kind of the same, but there's nothing in this that I can find that was in the episode, because they say people guilty of greed are forced to carry heavy weights around for the rest of their life. So that's not in the episode.
Grenades, maybe.
Grenades, yeah.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. I've just found again 2 others, but they're kind of obvious within the episode. But anger and violence, but that's pretty much a given, really. So
yeah,
and I think the other 2, fraud. I can't find anything in the episode.
Well, I mean, maybe at first Harry tries to deceive Hunter a little bit by by going along with the.
He does. He pretends to be Roberts.
It's a tenuous link, but
yeah,
but yeah, maybe.
The very last one is treachery, which again, it's not really in the episode, but obviously Vietnam veterans felt betrayed by their countries when they came back and were pretty much shunned by society. So in the real world, yes, I can see it, but it's not directly in the episode, though.
Sure.
How amazing is it that you can find all of that in an episode of The Protectors?
Yeah.
I mean, amazing. Thank you for that list.
Like I say, I never would have thought about it until I saw that IMDb trivia, so that inspired me to look further. So again, whoever put that trivia up, thank you. It got me something to talk about.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, yeah, so the episode ends On a very, very bleak note, at the end of the runway, an ambulance takes away Hunter, and Slade and
What's left
Harry
of him.
Rule of kind of... Oh, yeah, what's left of him. Harry and Slade are there together, kind of... they don't know what to say to each other. It's having gone through a whole episode where the two are kind of at odds with each other and always having different opinions on things. They're kind of at the end, as you say, the Contessa isn't even there to kind of console Harry, so Slade's the only other person he can chat to about it. So yeah.
What do we make of the final callback? As he's standing alone on the tarmac watching the ambulance drive away, they play a little bit of the "Oh Susanna"
music,
song that they were playing in the washroom. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah,
I can only... Sorry, go on.
No, I don't have any ideas, so yeah, go ahead, Adam.
I mean, the only thing I could think of is, again, what I mentioned earlier about a lack of music, because obviously we've got that one bit of Protectors music during the grenade scene. We get the brass band stock music, and then, well, this isn't actual music, but I guess it was just recording on set of the banjo. But I can only assume it's like, excuse me, after everything that's happened, it's like a moment of just trying to find peace in the situation. Like maybe, he's found peace now, so just playing in his head, a moment of happiness. So I can only assume it's like this moment where after everything that's happened, Hunter has now hopefully found peace. And again, it's just a symbol of that. That's the best I can think of.
I think it might just be a practical thing where obviously it would have been really atmospheric to end on total silence and not have anything there. But of course, we go into the end credits and it's avenues and alleyways. I think that would have been
too dark.
Don't get me wrong, it's jarring anyway that they go from one to the other in the way that they do. But I think if you'd had complete silence there, it would have been too much. It would have been too weird. So I think they had to put something there to end on. The only other thing I can think of maybe is just to kind of, indicate that it's lingering, that this is still this is going to haunt Harry for a long time. He's going to be thinking about that whole experience for a long time. And that also this isn't a unique case, and that the episode and the issue does not end here, and that these kinds of thoughts are lingering in the minds of, as you say, lots of Vietnam veterans are kind of going through some of the things.
I think it's symbolic because that's the music of all the young kids, the kids who were still fresh faced and just showing up for this war, and so I think it's sort of indicative that their fate could be the same as Hunter's if we don't do something about it. So it's sort of a callback to that sort of like, as you say, something else. This thing can be ongoing. Unless we put a stop to it.
Yeah. Well, let's go. Let's just give our final thoughts on the episode before we head. We've got a couple of viewer comments that I just want to take a look at before we go. But first, let's kind of round up the episode. Adam, if you had to use, if you had to convince people to watch this episode who've never seen it before, what would you say?
Well, I mean, apart from just brace yourself, you're not going to expect your typical Jerry Anderson type of show. You need to have an open mind and know that this is, you may like Captain Scarlet for its darkness, but it's not as bleak as this episode. But I truly believe, it may be a bold statement, but I think it is Tony Barwick's masterpiece. He's wrote many great episodes, but this is the one where I just think everything works, and he really was putting a lot of elements in there. But also Don Chaffee as the director, who I think must have been inspired by the script because he put in so many great visual motifs in there with certain angles and camera angles, etc. And also Robert Vaughn, who we mentioned earlier was against the Vietnam War, but he really adds a lot of element to it. And I think they were all working together, just really crafting a really good story. And just, oh God, there's so much I want to talk about. And hopefully I've covered them all, But the thing with the Protectors is I'm not a fan of it. but I like the fact that this is so unique. It's not a typical episode. Anyone that doesn't like the Protectors, I would say give this a go, because this has so many layers and this is so well written. But if you don't like the episode and you watch it, then maybe try With a Little Help from My Friends, because that's another really strong episode, and Sylvia Anderson did a great job writing that one. Then if you don't like that, I honestly would say Protectors is not for you.
Might not be for you, yeah.
But as far as like a typical Protectors episode, maybe I quite like Brotherhood. I mean, that's quite a typical episode. So maybe try something softer like that. I don't know. Even that's quite bleak, with shotgun blast to the face. When Patrick Troughton's character is talking about shooting his brother in the face. So.
Yeah.
Ben, you like the Protectors. What's the recommended episode?
On,
because I'm recommending the odd, the ones that may put people off.
All of those are good. I think if you like those, you'll like the Protectors. I'm really fond of the 2-part story, Wham, with Princess Hancock. Just love to see what the show can do when it's got some longer stuff. Disappearing Trick is one I'm fond of. It's got a great guest star again, Darren Nesbitt. Does a great job playing someone who wants to disappear. And it has a little bit of a twist. It's good fun. It's got all the kind of like ITC action show hallmarks of that time. Yeah, it's good fun. And you can kind of just needle drop on any episode of the Protectors, in my opinion. Because there's so many that are just kind of samey. But they all have that kind of like, it's samey in a good way. Like they're all European and fun. And then you get the few like standout episodes like this one that are just like, wow, you just never would have seen this coming. Exactly. And it's great. I highly recommend
Vocal. I've just remembered Vocal. That's a very typical episode, and very gimmicky as well with the masks. So if these are too bleak for you, give Vocal a go. I'd say
great choice.
The one is Shane Rimmer in that one?
He is, yeah.
Okay, yeah, that is a good one. Yeah, that's very Avengers like. I think
it was written by Albert Fennell, so that does make sense.
Yeah, in the sense that it's slightly weird and a little bit surreal and strange. Yeah, okay. Just thinking about Shane Rimmer, I think about the episode Zeke's Blues as well. That one being quite good fun.
A good one.
And we've hated a little bit on It Could Be Practically Anywhere on the Island, but I think everyone has to go through it. That's just my opinion. I think you have to see it. It's a rite of passage, really.
A Jerry Anderson crucible.
Yeah.
You just got. You can sit through that. You can sit through anything.
Pretty much.
Yeah, I've only done it twice. One was the very first time I watched it. The second time was when I put it on my destroy list and I had to watch it again. So never, ever, ever, ever again.
Oof.
Fair enough. Yeah. Well, let's take a look at some viewer comments. We didn't have too many because sadly the Protectors, not so widely viewed. And we actually had a comment from Philip Cully says, sorry, The Protectors is the one Anderson show I've not watched. I'm sure it's good, though.
Time to correct that, Philip.
Have we convinced you? Let us know. Have we managed to convince you on that? At least go and watch The First Circle, because it's something a bit different.
Yeah. If you're an Anderson fan, this is the one to watch, because it's got Ed Bishop in it, and it's a good one.
Yeah. And Simpsons Clips 24 on Blue Sky says, the Podsterons and I saw this episode and reviewed it in the early days of the Podders' Arms. I remember I described it and the Protectors as a whole as something that could have benefited from an extended runtime. If only Lou Grade had said this is a feature film to this series too. I've never thought about that, whether the Protectors would benefit from longer episodes.
Personally, no.
I think I agree that there are certain stories that wrap up way too quickly.
Yes.
There are episodes that just end. However, I don't think there was enough substance to the whole thing to really justify anything longer than a 25-minute episodes. I think that the appeal of the series in a way is the fact that it's quite quick and throwaway, and as you say, you can just needle drop and watch any episode, and it's just a bit of fun that you can have on for 25 minutes and just enjoy. Except for the first circle, which, as you say, is a standout kind of masterpiece where they're trying to do something very, very different.
Yes.
So interesting there. But alas, sadly, that's all we heard from our viewers. So we hope that many of you turned around and maybe will give the Protectors a good try. And I'm sure we'll talk about it again on the podcast in the future. So there we are.
Definitely.
I think
So even though it is 52 episodes, the fact is that it is just 25 minutes. You can get through them pretty fast if you just
That's true.
binge through it as quick as possible, because that's what I did. I held off for so long, and the fact that it was 52 episodes did put me off. And then when I found out it was just 30 minutes, I thought, yeah, let's run the gauntlet.
Yeah.
All right.
At the risk of
some encouragement for you there. Yeah. All right.
Okay. All right.
There we go. I think we've said all we have to say, unless Ben, you had anything
I think so.
else?
No.
Right.
Carry on.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you all very much for tuning in to the Security Hazard Show. It's been great to have you there. Thank you everyone for bearing with us during our technical issues towards the start of the episode.
Blame the guests.
Well, I would never. But yeah, thank you all for tuning in. You can watch us live every single Wednesday at 6 p.m. UK time, youtube.com/Jack Knoll. You can also catch audio versions of these episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere that you get your podcasts. Just look for the Security Hazard Show. Rate and review us there so that we can climb up those charts and maybe grow this little show a little bit more. But if you really want to help us grow the show, then Ben, how can people do that?
Well, you can roll along to patreon.com/securityhazard, where we're creating all kinds of special content just for you guys who support us and tip us in that way. Supporting us that way helps us keep going and gives you something a little bit extra behind the scenes. Yeah, much appreciated to a big shout out to all of our patrons over there.
Absolutely. And well, for everything else, head over to securityhazard.net. That's where you'll find all my social media links. And you can also get reviews of Space Precinct at the moment. I'm about halfway through the series at the moment, so everyone keeps telling me it's going to get better. So that's what I'm hoping for. So yeah, head over to securityhazard.net. Ben, where can people find you?
Well, I'm benwolf.page on the interwebs. You can also find me on various social media platforms as @Cinemarionette or @BenWolfPage on Blue Sky. Yeah, that's where I live on the web.
Lovely stuff. Adam, we have to say thank you so much for joining us and for providing all of your magnificent insights on the first circle. We're very grateful to you for picking this episode, because I suspect Ben and I may not have gotten to this one for a while, so thank you for kind of raising it up, because it was definitely worthy of discussion, and thank you so much for adding so much to it. Where do you want to shout out? Where do you want to send people? Where can people find more of what you do?
Well, first, thank you both for having me. I appreciate coming on and getting to talk about the first circle. But if you want to find me, I don't have that much social media presence. I cleansed myself from that a long time ago, but I am on Instagram. If you go to Adam_Luff, that's just basically a page where I have my pictures of all the activities I do in Japan, because I've been living in Japan for nearly 3 years now. But that's basically it, just pictures of what I've been doing. If you want to go, you can find me on Vimeo, where I've got proof of concept videos for some screenplays I've been writing. So I've got videos like that, but really nothing Anderson related, I'm afraid. So
the Keep and Destroy podcast, admittedly that was a few years ago that you worked on that, but the Keep and Destroy podcast is well worth having a listen to if you want to hear some fan opinions on different episodes, and indeed Adam's opinions on his favorite and least favorite Jerry Anderson episode. So Keep and Destroy is on YouTube, isn't it?
Yes, on YouTube. Yeah, I've left them there. I won't be doing any new ones anytime soon, but yeah, if you want to go back and have a look at them, yeah, go ahead. And yeah, because there's an episode with me and Ben. You mentioned Simpsons clips. He got an episode as well. So yeah, feel free to check them out. Yeah, but
right.
yeah, other than that, yeah, nothing Anderson related in the upcoming future. Some of my screenplays aren't really Anderson inspired as such, but you know, me and Ben have been talking about projects, but we haven't got them off the ground yet. But who knows? Maybe in the future I'll come back with some ideas. Yeah.
Oh yes, absolutely. Well, lovely stuff. Well, thank you very much again for joining us. Thank you everyone for tuning in, and we will catch you next week. Stay tuned. Bye for now.